Yes. Greetings, everyone. I'm so excited today as we are back live on the Dawn Francis Book Show, and I am so super excited to be back. I just want to tell everyone that I am so happy to be back because we were not live for a minute and it was just time for a little self-care. And for some of you, you may have been on spring break, and we had a lot of wonderful things happen, Ramadan and Easter, and I hope everybody kept safe and everybody's doing well and everybody's healthy. And I'm so happy to be back today with a very special guest. But before I introduce my special guest, I want to just remind everybody about the Discovering Strength book series. This book series is a book series in which you have to read. And if you have not gotten the book, we're going to talk about it a lot today. But I want you to know that it is a book that is a resource that's being used all over, and it is for diversity and inclusion, mentorship, and so many other wonderful things. And so, if you're thinking about a special gift for Mother's Day or Father's Day, which is around the corner, I want you to go to our website, Discovering Strength Series, and pick up the book. And know that we're going to have some specials for Mother's Day and Father's Day. And it is a beautiful set that you can absolutely purchase for your loved ones. All right, again, Dawn Francis here, super excited. I want to talk to you a little bit about my upcoming guest who's coming in just a moment. This man is a very special man, and I'll tell you a little backstory about him before he comes on. He was actually one of the principals that I sat under. So he not only mentored me, but he taught me so many things about leadership just in watching him, how he dealt with so many things in our building. And he is such an amazing leader. And I couldn't be more excited because Mr. Sterling Burke Sr. is joining us today. And there he is. And we are so excited to be speaking with him today as an amazing, not only leader, but as an amazing best-selling author. And so welcome, Mr. Burke.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I am fabulous. Can't you tell? I'm super excited
Yeah,
because you're with us today. How are you?
I'm doing tremendously well.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go right into talking to him and talking to Mr. Burke about his wonderful chapter as well as who the man is behind all the titles. So, Mr. Burke, if you wouldn't mind talking to us just a little bit about who is Mr. Burke beyond the titles, but you can't really get beyond the titles with you. So, you can include those if you so desire.
Okay. I want to first say, having heard you speak about me, I said to myself, I'd like to meet that guy because he sounds like he's pretty interesting. But in all kidding aside, I am somebody who has seen many ups and downs in my life, who's had the pleasure, the uh, benefit of being in a large family. And anyone out there who has been in a large family understands that there are many dynamics that you are involved with in that kind of large family. I'm number 7 of 11. I grew up in the country. I'm certainly a country boy, but in that process of being a country boy, I learned many important values. Uh, in my chapter, I mentioned the fact that we spent a lot of time in the church because that is the foundation of who I am and what I do. But most importantly for me, I am someone who believes in being a change agent who has a moral purpose, and that is to intentionally change the lives of all the people, adults, greater community, particularly the children who I have served in many different capacities over the years. I am blessed to have been chosen as the 2002 Principal of the Year, Middle School Principal of the Year in the state of Maryland. I also recently was honored by the Maryland State Education Association for being a leader over a period of years and having been successful. I received that honor in 2019, and it was one of the more humbling honors I've ever received, because when the educators who are the ones who have the boots on the ground think that you, in fact, made a contribution and want to applaud you for that, that really touched my heart.
Well, I am certain it is very much deserved, because I just happen to know the kind of leader that you are, and you absolutely deserve all the accolades and all of the honor. So I'm so excited about that for you, and just to be here with you right now. I'd like to just ask you a question about your writing. What did writing your story mean to you?
Gave me an opportunity to do something that educators don't usually do well, or at least don't do deeply. I reflected on my practice. I reflected on how is it that I arrive at this portion in my life, and what are the things that have had the impact on me to get me here. Um, it is not an easy path, and you have to honor those individuals, but also those moments that had the big impact on you. And so for me, writing that book and titling my chapter Moments, it really gave me a chance to pick from many moments in my life and say, well, these four have significant impact, and impact that I'd like to share with others.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So, in the writing process, can you tell me, as we know it's discovering the strength, how did you discover the strength within yourself, even through this writing process?
I would say that the writing process validated my feeling or my thinking about my strength. One of the first things I did when I was a principal was to present at a professional conference. And part of that was talking to those professional educators about the most important thing you can do, or one of the most important things you can do, is understand the source of your strength. As expressed in the book, I know that the source of my strength, and I knew that the source of my strength was my relationship with God, my relationship with Jesus Christ. I didn't go around and proliferate about either of those things, but I felt that my actions would speak as loud as any words I would put out there. So therefore, I was raised to believe that God has a plan for all of us. And with that foundation, that's how I would live my life.
Well, you know I love that, because faith is it's a foundation for myself as well. And I remember just having a conversation with you not long ago when you said everybody has to have something, and I know that that is so important. So as we're continuing on with questions for you, just getting to know you a little bit better, and getting a better understanding of the strength and the wisdom that you not only hold but are also sharing with others. We're going to take a break in just a moment, and when we come back, what I would like for you to tell us is where your story started. Some of us know a little bit about it, but I want you to tell us where your story started, and so that our audience can get a deeper look into who this amazing, I would almost call you a general, who this amazing leader is. And so we'll be back in just a moment with more Mr. Sterling Burke Sr.
Great.
I'm Charles Meriday, and I'm in the restaurant business. In my 20 years as a chef and restaurant owner, I've been able to work and eat in some of the great kitchens around the globe. There's a whole side of the restaurant that most people will never get to see. So now, I want to take you to the back of the house, into kitchens of some of the best chefs in the world. Along the way, I'll share some of my own tips and recipes so you can cook like a pro too. So join me in the back of the house for a whole new perspective on cooking and food. Order in. Roger. Serve it, please.
Bona Club.
I'm glad that you came. Please.
And we're back. We're back with none other than STERLIND BURKE Sr. And as we are excited speaking with him today, we would like to ask you what made you share your story even at this time? And then we'll come to that other question that I asked right before the break, which is to tell us where your story started.
Choosing to tell my story really is about opportunity. As you well know, you reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested. And I did my due diligence with you and was thoughtful about my decision. Didn't take me long, but I still was thoughtful. But I said, this is something I could not pass up. And so therefore, I decided to do something that I really had not ever done. As a principal and also a director in a nonprofit, I have written many, many, many reports, some extensive reports. But in terms of writing something so that people could get a real joy and pleasure out of it, I hadn't really done that. So having chosen to take this on, I knew that was causing me to stretch, and I love growing. So that's why I chose to do this.
Well, we're so glad that you did because so many people are learning from it. And you know, I've stated it before that I know that each chapter has its own thing, but some are absolutely great for incoming educators and administrators, and yours is absolutely one of them. And so, tell us where your story started.
I have the good fortune of having a very good memory, particularly of my younger days. And my story started because my siblings, particularly I have two brothers that taught me a valuable lesson very early in my life, and that is shared in the story, Don't Throw Out the Meat, within my chapter. I'm not going to go too deeply into that, but what it taught me was that I needed to make sure that uh, knowledge or recommendations I received were valid recommendations and they were recommendations I could trust. Let's just put it that way. And if you don't do that, there's a heavy price to pay sometimes. So I learned that at age 5 or 6 years old. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of being in a large family because there are many lessons to be learned if you just pay attention. And believe you me, this is one lesson that has stuck with me my entire life.
Well, I love that. And I thank you for sharing that. And you're being from a large family. Well, you may or may not know, but I come from a large family as well. Not as large as yours, but where do you fit in that number?
Well, as I said, I'm number seven. And what we sometimes say is that my mother had three families, and folks who have big, really big families, you can kind of break it down that way. And I felt I was within that middle family, within that group of middle family. And it really, if you believe in family order or see any validity in that, I know I became a peacemaker and a someone who was a problem solver more so than a problem creator. And I find that is a characteristic you'll find in that middle person, in that whether it's just three children, or five children, nine children, or 11. So I feel that that was part of my role, and I was able to figure that out quite early in my life.
I love that. It's for myself. I'm the youngest of eight, and I don't know if they would consider me the peacemaker, but you'd have to ask them. They might call me a firecracker occasionally, but it's okay. I would like for you to talk a little bit about, without giving too much away about your chapter, about the struggle, because we know that we talk about strength, but we know that oftentimes there are struggles, and sometimes people don't necessarily make it over the struggle. And so I'd like for you to just share with our audience, um, without giving too much away, about what that struggle was like and how you overcame.
Anytime you are a leader, and if you, in fact, are going to be what I know I became, a change agent, you are going to have struggles because you're being put in a position, whether uh, I was a high school student and on the student council president, or being class president, or any of those kinds of things. You're being put in a position where you're supposed to make things better, and you don't make things better by doing status quo things. Therefore, I learned again early, and I certainly made it a more sophisticated approach, that if you're going to be a change agent, expect to get the heat. And you need to be prepared to either diffuse, deflect, or handle the heat that you're going to get, as long as you keep your focus where it should be and the reason why you're changing. Then the struggle, though at times it could be tough, uh, the struggle is worth it, because the outcomes that you get for the people who you are serving, and I consider myself a servant leader, whether it's the staff, the parents, the children, or the greater community of your school, uh, if they benefit from your struggle, then that's a win for you.
I tell you. So our audience is hearing just a little bit of what I already knew. Is just the wisdom that comes from you, and the importance of people who listen to you. If they take those little nuggets that you're giving, it can make a world of difference. Not just in a classroom or a school, but really in life. And so I appreciate that. I really do appreciate your sharing that and being so transparent, even in your chapter, with what you share, um, and talking about the struggles. So we're going to talk a little bit about hope, because I believe that that's definitely a part and through your chapter. If you could just, before we go to break, we got about a minute and a half or so. If you could just share a little bit about hope and how you remain hopeful even through the struggles.
There is a song or a saying that I heard many times in my life as a child and continued in my adulthood: make a way out of no way. And I embraced that at a very, very young age. Uh, that is a piece that helps with your creativity. If you believe that you can make a way out of no way, then no situation is hopeless. And for me, having had that really burned in my being growing up, that's how I looked at it. And therefore, being placed in schools where there were a lot of things going on, there was chaos in many cases, but the expectation is of myself, not just of the school system, that I will make this situation better because I have the hope, the energy, and the enthusiasm that as a leader will help transcend all those issues.
Powerful words indeed. Ladre Galloway says, the power of your words, sir, for young educators and seasoned administrators within your chapter is invaluable. And I absolutely agree with that, because the thought behind it is absolutely every administrator, whether they're seasoned or not, can learn so much from your story. So my hope is that they are listening, one, and if they don't have the book, that they will get the book so that they can learn from the wisdom and the knowledge and the nuggets. And we'll be back in just a moment with more Sterling Burke Sr.
jazz lover? If so, have we got something special for you? Presenting Tracy Hamlin's Sweet Jazz Concerts. The first concert of 2022 is Sunday, May 1st, with saxophonist Paula Atherton and the songstress herself, Tracy Hamlin, at the River Creek Country Club in Leesburg, Virginia. Sunday, May 1st at 4 p.m. For more information and tickets, visit www.sweetjazzconcerts.com.
Sponsored by the Bank of Clark.
And we're back. And we're talking about hidden insight, discovering strength, hidden insight, an educator's perspective. And we're speaking with the best-selling author, STERLIND BURKE Sr. And we're so excited and we are so enjoying our conversation. And before we left, we were talking a little bit about, well, he was actually sharing some major nuggets as an educator, administrator, and we were taking it all in, powerful words. But we're going to take a little turn and go a little bit personal with Mr. Burke. And I want to ask you, what did you discover through your writing process as you are a best-selling author now? And I'd like for you to just share with our audience what you discovered about yourself.
First and foremost, I discovered that I actually could write something that others wanted to read, okay? And that others would get enjoyment out of, and as you've mentioned, some nuggets in the writing. The other piece is the validation from those who have read it and given me feedback that the style that I chose to use was exactly the right style for them. And by that, I mean, I wanted to write something where it was comfortable, where someone who picked up that particular chapter would start it and start reading it and get such a wonderful experience that before they knew it, they were finished. And I've gotten that kind of feedback. I've also heard from folks who said it was as if I was sitting right in front of them, having a conversation with them in their living room. And for me, it just doesn't get better than that.
I absolutely agree. I have heard so many comments about so many of our chapters, and it is so very exciting. What was the biggest surprise you encountered through your writing process? What would you say?
Then I was pretty good at it. You know, again, I've done many reports and effective reports for business, whether it's in nonprofit world or in public schools, or I've also worked for the Maryland State Department of Education. And so I knew I was an effective writer, but to be an effective writer in a nonfiction kind of world, that was a deep learning for me and a joyous learning for me.
Well, I tell you, it was deep for us in reading it, because for those of you who have read the book, just thinking about some of those stories, just giving a tad bit about standing in front of that student with the rifle Uh, if you haven't read his story, you definitely need to know what happens at the end of that, because you handled it, but you want to know what happens in that story. It's like, you have to read it. You really do, because it's just to know some of the things that you went through and how you handled it. It's kind of mind blowing. But let's jump into a little bit of, you talked about your faith. How would you say your story increased your faith?
I would say the breadth and depth of my faith increased. And that, again, is part of the reflections that people have given me about what they've learned and how they've enjoyed the words. And in some cases, having even close family members who did not know uh, my approach. I mean, they knew it on the surface, but did not know my deep spiritual approach to what I do and how I do it. To understand that my sense of spirituality helped me be calm in some of the most outrageous and dangerous situations. But that was part of my belief system that it would be okay. I just needed to maintain my focus and trust in God. And so for them to hear incidents that they had never heard before, and it didn't surprise them that I handled it that way, but it was just interesting for them to know that my spiritual center guided me through such terrific and sometimes horrific times.
Indeed, indeed. I tell you. So as you think of the discovering strength, what does discovering strength mean to you? I feel like it's kind of interweaved through a lot, but share with our audience what it means to you and how you define strength.
Sure. I'll go to this piece because I've had this kind of conversation with folks before. When people say, well, I found Jesus. And I say, well, I didn't have to find him because he's been with me all the time. Okay. So in terms of discovering my own strength, I knew the source of my strength. I had to do just what my mother said forever and constantly as I grew up and as I was a man before she left this earth. Basically, God talks to you all the time, but you have to listen and then be obedient. And so for me, having a deeper understanding of those words certainly has helped continue to build my strength and help me have a deeper understanding. But I didn't have to find it because I knew where to look.
Powerful words indeed. So, in looking at that, and I thank you for sharing, because Discovering Strength, the series it's a powerful series, and it's really close to my heart because I know that it can help so many people. But before we go to break, I'd like for you to answer this question. Why do you think sharing your story at this time is important? Um, why it's important to the world, really?
Whenever somebody can see another person who has had struggles, had challenges, and then is able to overcome those challenges, and is a real person who has worked in the business that you have worked in, or just worked in a leadership position, that gives validation to those individuals, but also helps them be stronger because it'll be all right in the morning. You just have to hang in there, stay focused, remember your source of strength, keep your eyes on the prize, whatever the prize is. And if you hang in there, good things will happen.
And I appreciate that, but I tell you, I think it's important because I feel like administrators, leaders, whether they're in education or whether they're in corporate America, they need to learn and hear those those words and the stories in which are shared to help all of us just to become better. And that's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about the stories getting out, because if people would actually listen and learn from others, they can actually possibly not make the same mistakes over and over again. So, I so appreciate your candor. I appreciate your transparency, and I appreciate the wisdom that you share. And we're going to take a break in just a moment. But before we go to our break, I just want to say, for those of you who have not purchased the book, go to the discoveringstrengthseries.com, because you absolutely want to read Moments, because those moments that he shares will absolutely help you to be a better leader no matter where you are. And I think our interaction, Ladre says, your message is grounding for so many of us, regardless of the profession we are in. She's absolutely right. Ordine says, as a leader who has seen many changes through your years of teaching, how do you feel about the state of education today and where it's going? Well, we'll be back in a moment and he can answer that question.
Time. It has a different meaning in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It goes backwards, forwards, it stops. St. Croix is rooted in history. So much of it still remains untouched.
I remember running on these streets as a kid. This shop was right down there. It opened the same year I was born. This is where the original Crucian hook was born. It's the symbol of these islands. And I wanted to have my hands in that very same history. I want to be able to pass it down to my family while still putting a new spin on it.
The U.S. Virgin Islands, we have an amazing culture that developed over time from all over the world.
St. John feels so untouched. Being underwater is like another world. There's no worries, there's no stress. I can just escape. This is my happy place. My passion for scuba diving came at just being fascinated with the water and wanting to be a mermaid. And this is the closest thing I can get to achieving mermaid status. Canadians just love being outdoorsy. We live for adventure, so we love anything hiking, being on the water, diving, snorkeling, and St. John has it all.
It's like some spirit is protecting the island and keeping them raw. The Makujumbi watches over the island. From up there, they keep the evil spirits away.
Get down.
The nightlife in St. Thomas is absolutely amazing. There's always something going on. Everyone comes together to dance and catch a vibe. We're always celebrating. We celebrate freedom, culture, the food, the smell, the music. It's always a celebration. The people here are probably the most priceless thing because they keep the culture going. There's so many different influences on these islands. Food from all kinds of countries coming together in new dishes. All of us came from somewhere, but all we call this home. The VI is a new melting pot. This is where the past and the future comes together.
Greetings, everyone. And we are back and excited to be with none other than STERLIND BURKE Sr. And as he's going to be coming in with us shortly, I just want to remind everybody about Hidden Insight, Discovering Strength, Hidden Insight, an Educator's Perspective. We're speaking with STERLIND BURKE, the best-selling author who wrote on Moments. And before we left, we had some interaction talking about, asking us a question about where education is today and wanted you to speak to that. So I want to give you that moment, if you would speak to that question.
On one hand, there's a lot being put on the plate. I call it a platter because it has to expand. And even on that big platter, society is placing a lot on the educator's plate, whether it is the social emotional learning beyond what we had already been doing. Those folks who are middle school folks know that that's an area that's been in focus for 30 years or more in the middle school level, but now that has been proliferated through all levels, high school and elementary school, in ways that it hadn't been done before because of the pandemic. You have the situation where folks are expected to be proficient and efficient teaching remotely, teaching a hybrid model, engaging with students and staff and communities when they know that there's that imminent danger of COVID-19. And that's always gnawing at them. We've always had to deal with the flu and always had to deal with the various colds and things of that nature. But COVID-19 is a different monster. And so that's a lot being put on the plate, the platter of educators, and they're expected to handle it. What I can say is those at the top are beginning to understand the importance of providing perhaps more breaks and more time for staff where they don't have to be physically in the building and still get their work done.
I thank you for sharing that. Of course, it's personal to me because I'm still in it as I'm smiling. And yes, the challenges are real. They are so real. I have a lot that I could say, but I'm not going to because we don't have a lot of time left. And I definitely want to get into a little bit more about Mr. STERLIND BURKE. With the Discovering Strength series, there are many stories in there, but I would like for you to share if any of those stories spoke to you. As we know, many of the stories are speaking to people all over the world, and we're excited about that. What resonated with you with any of the stories?
I will share that, but I really want to make sure folks understand, because I have two children who are educators and I have grandchildren in schools, I am very hopeful at the quality of people that are in the educational system, and very hopeful for my grandchildren that they will not just be successful in school, but they will prosper. So I want to put that point out. And relative to looking at the book, the one author, there are a few, I've really enjoyed Carl Words. I enjoyed Dr. Hammond's. I enjoyed Michael McClellan's. I mean, I can go on to some of the others, but one that really sticks out because it's a journey of a colleague that I really didn't know her journey. And looking into that, to be able to see that she did, in fact, overcome so many obstacles in order to become a principal, but also continue to impact on other folks. And that's Nelda Sims in Nelda's chapter. Because to have gone from a paraeducator to a teacher, to an assistant principal, to a principal, and have changed jurisdictions and have had to go through so many different changes, and actually had to choose to be apart from her husband and her son while she and her daughter were in the Howard County public school system. That's a big sacrifice, but she made it because she believed it was the right thing to do. Even though there were times that she even doubted herself, she always ran across somebody who would say, "You can do this, Nelda." And she trusted those people and pushed forward. So her story of being denied opportunities, her story of people out and out telling her she wasn't capable, but she didn't follow that path. She followed the right path because her faith told her she needed to keep moving forward. I love that story.
Yes, unlimited possibilities. Indeed, you have to read that chapter. I thank you for sharing that. All of the stories are absolutely amazing. Every author is absolutely amazing, and I would like to ask Mr. Burke, and I want you to share with our audience how people can reach you, because our time is almost up, and I want them to know how they can reach you and what is your next. How how can people support you, our audience support your endeavors and the things in which you are doing? How can they follow you? Tell them how they can reach you.
I am on LinkedIn and I am on Facebook, and you can contact me through either of those platforms if you wish to reach out to me. I'm an education consultant. I'm currently mentoring some educators and some people from the nonprofit world. I also mentor. So don't just think you have to stick within the construct of public education, because I have had the good fortune of also understanding a very different world, which is the nonprofit world, and have some good successes there. So, and for me, what's next? I've been encouraged by a number of people to write some more because they enjoyed moments, and they said, "You really need to write more because I know you have more stories." So that is something I'm giving serious consideration to, and look forward to me mapping that out and moving forward with that. I also am very engaged with my family. So my family sings gospel music, a cappella gospel music. So I intend to continue with that. I'm a fortunate pop. I have two grandsons. So that's one of my great pleasures. And certainly I will continue to be involved with the lives of my grandchildren. So that's what's next for me.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And people who need information from him can reach him, just as he said, on Facebook and LinkedIn. We have lots of interaction happening. We're probably not going to get to all of the comments and questions, but those of you who are watching, you can absolutely go back and watch the replay. And we're so excited we have just about a minute and a half left, and we didn't get to do our joyous moment. I'd like for us to do our joyous moment. And so he's going to share with us um, one of his most joyous moments, past or present, and we're going to see if we can guess. And we have a really, really fast, so you got to be quick.
I'll go fast. And I want you to picture this environment where it's a beautiful day in November. It's warm. I am in this wonderful church. I have friends and family at this location. And I'm standing in the front of the church, and I look and see this beautiful, intelligent, gorgeous woman coming my way who is going to add to my life and add to my joy. And I can tell you this monumental occasion is celebrated annually and has been celebrated for over 40 years.
Well, our interaction isn't happening, but I got a feeling, just based upon what you said, this beautiful woman coming forward to you, it has to be your wedding. Am I right?
Correct.
Oh, awesome. Well, our interaction, nobody answered. But Dre came. You were a little bit late. You probably put it in quickly. But we're going to continue on. We're so excited, and we are about to close, unfortunately, but we are so happy to have spent this time with you, Mr. Burke. Thank you for joining us. Those of you who are watching will be back in 2 weeks, but I want to say thank you so much for joining us and being with us on April the 30th, indeed, with Mr. Burke. And have a wonderful day. Have a fabulous day on purpose. Why? Because you can. You have the power to do that for yourself. So thank you and have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.